Zelda has always been something of an oddity in Smash. Originally conceived as the power half of a transforming duo, she never quite managed to hold up her end of the bargain, hamstrung both by the clumsiness of trying to seamlessly switch in and out with Sheik, as well as a diminished incentive to do this at all thanks to her alter ego's consistently stronger performance. As both the Smash and Zelda series progressed, the transformation mechanic was finally severed in favor of two fully distinct fighters. A sensible enough decision in theory, but in practice, one that left the reincarnated version of the character feeling, ironically, much more stuck in the past than her Ocarina of Time legacy holdover. Zelda was lost, but then again, was there ever much to find? Despite being the namesake of the series, The Legend of Zelda has infamously featured very little of Zelda herself, and grasping at a handful of loosely affiliated goddess powers and statues was just about as much as there was to work with. That is, until now. The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom finally places Zelda at the forefront of her own canonical adventure and breathes new life into her identity. And with a Switch 2 on the way and a new Smash entry inevitably following, now's the perfect time to take a look at what a reimagined Zelda could play like as a fighter. As with Link and Ganondorf's entries in this video series, this is going to be a top-to-bottom rework, essentially pretending that she never existed in Smash at all and is coming in with a clean slate. Link and Ganondorf received sweeping movesets that attempted to encapsulate the entirety of their legacies, which is usually my favorite approach for Smash characters rather than tunnel visioning on one or two games. In Zelda's case though, while her entire almost 40-year history will be looked at as usual, Echoes of Wisdom is going to get a lot of the spotlight this time around. It's the first canonical game where she's had a fleshed out toolkit at all, let alone one that does everything and comes from a genuinely excellent game that sorely deserves to be iterated on. This take on Zelda feels like a strong future for the character at home, so it seems fitting that it should be the future of Smash too. Fair warning, that means spoilers. I'm going to avoid the final boss and major plot spoilers for Echoes of Wisdom beyond what's been shown in trailers, but everything else it has to offer, as well as everything from the rest of the Zelda franchise, is fair game. Let's do it. Right, so the basis of Zelda's Smash appearance is going to be from Echoes of Wisdom, but she's not meant to literally be translated with the toy box or chibi appearance she has while playable there. Remember that while Link looked like this in Link's Awakening, which used the same engine, he was actually portraying a character that looks like this. And while the same kind of official concept art isn't available for Echoes of Wisdom as of recording, that's what you'd actually presumably be seeing in Smash, although for simplicity's sake, I'll stick to the in-game models when needed. As far as costumes go, Smash Ultimate has 8 slots, and hey, so does Echoes of Wisdom. But while they're fun, some do seem a bit out there if we're trying to match the feel of the real Smash series. So I'll take the most fitting 4 with a palette swap for each. Her default costume will be the Royal Travel attire, a fittingly sporty look for a fighting game and the one she's implied to favor while out adventuring. Its alternate palette is a classic rich red which emulates Zelda's appearance when Link has the red ring equipped on the original Legend of Zelda, including her darker hair. Costume 3 is her disguise attire from early in Echoes of Wisdom, and its alternate palette swaps out the pink for a blue that harkens back a bit to her color scheme from Tears of the Kingdom. Costume 5 is the customary attire, her more traditional garb that also makes an appearance in Echoes of Wisdom, and its palette swap is a darker tint with red eyes. She's her very own Echo. And finally, we have the Silk Pajamas, an outfit that grants her healing powers in Echoes of Wisdom and also loosely resembles some of her other appearances over the years. Its recolor will be a sensible green, which helps fill out the entire spectrum and, obviously, also serves as a nod to Link's classic style. Yes, Zelda does get an actual green tunic, so she could rep that look herself, but there's no shortage of green tunics running around already. Let's let her do something new. Speaking of something new, Zelda's down taunt has her sipping one of the smoothies she gets to blend up in Echoes of Wisdom. The smoothie that appears as random, and there's a 10% chance it'll be an unfortunate smoothie, in which case she gasps and stutters after drinking it. Side taunt is an elaborate flourish with her tri-rod that ends in a heroic pose, and for up taunt, she crosses her arms and winks at the camera. Tri from Echoes of Wisdom lowers her down in a ball of light for her entrance animation. She sleeps regally as she's done surprisingly often in her home series, and shield breaks make her stand limply in place. For Victory Animation 1, a phantom from Spirit Tracks shudders in place before crumbling as she steps out from behind it. Victory Animation 2 has her swooping in behind a whirling tornado, converting its momentum into a high spinning leap and striking a pose on landing. And last but not least, she can also feed a carrot to her trusty horse. Moving into gameplay, Zelda's ditching the unarmed approach she's taken up to this point in the official Smash games, which, remember, we're pretending I've never included her before. While it wouldn't be totally out of character to pick up a sword, she's instead going to be doing something a bit different and arming herself herself with the trusty Tri-Rod from Echoes of Wisdom, a powerful tool that she's granted at the start of the game and that does most of the heavy lifting for her moveset. This gives a lot of her attacks extra range compared to the official Smash incarnation, and she's also a bit more agile overall, but as a trade-off, she doesn't hit quite as hard this time around, and she demands a bit more thought on the player's end, appropriate for the embodiment of wisdom. Her jab is a simple mid-ranged poke with the Tri-Rod. This is based on the animation that she uses to summon and erase individual echoes in Echoes of Wisdom, and while it has good range for a jab thanks to the reach and disjoint of the rod, it doesn't follow Ultimate's general trend of single-hit jabs acting as combo starters, nor does it inherit the reflecting properties that Link's and Ganondorf's jabs received earlier in this series. It does look a little flashier than you might expect for such a simple move, though, coming with some very distinctive, sparkling particle effects. I wonder what's going on there. Next up is Forward Tilt, a longer ranged overhead swing called the Tri-Rod Crescent. This is a great tool with a lot of coverage and decently low end lag, low enough to make it relatively safe on shield if spaced well. It's vaguely reminiscent of some of Link's attacks, which makes sense given that Zelda herself performs a similar overhead slash while in Sword Fighter form, but the Tri-Rod variant comes with a two-handed grip and a big step forward that extends its range even further. It'll even kill later on, not the ideal way to be stealing stock since it does take a while to get there, but still not a bad option to have. This one also has that distinctive sparkle effect on it, so I think it's time to talk about Zelda's signature mechanic. Any attack where Zelda hits you with the Tri-Rod comes with those particle effects, and they're used as an additional visual indicator to show that she can learn the echo of anything she hits with it. This could be an item, an NPC such as a Pokemon or assist trophy, but the biggest prize is an echo of another fighter. The echo that Zelda learns appears beside her portrait on the HUD, and there are also 3 pips indicating the amount of Tri-power she has available. While she has an echo learned, Zelda can charge all of her normals and aerials as if they were smash attacks, and if she charges past a brief window, indicated by Tri popping up behind her during the charge and flashing when it's ready, her attack will then be empowered with that echo. In the case of an item, it'll simply pop out right in front of the attack, great for adapting stuff like Rob's Gyro to her own benefit. If it's an NPC, it'll do one of its usual attacks and then disappear. If it's a fighter though, the echo will appear in front of Zelda and then do their version of whichever attack she was charging. So she can use Mario's forward air, forward smash, dash attack, you get the idea. And because the echo appears in front of her, she even gets a boost to the range and safety of these moves compared to their natural versions. This is a very powerful asset to have, but it does come with some caveats. Every echo costs some amount of Tri-power to summon, with items costing 2 and NPCs and fighters costing all 3. If at any point Zelda has no Tri-power left to spend, she loses the echo she's learned. On top of this temporarily acquired echo, Zelda also has certain moves that summon different echoes she brought into the arena with her, and likewise, these take Tri-power to use. You can only ever have a maximum of 3 Tri-power worth of echoes on screen at a time, and just like in Echoes of Wisdom, if you go over that limit, the oldest ones will immediately be erased and return their Tri-power to the meter. Zelda can never permanently lose Tri-power, it'll always be distributed between the meter and whatever echoes are on the stage, but you need to manage this distribution if you want to, say, keep an echo on the stage for reasons we'll get into, or especially if you want to keep your opponent's echo in her memory. Then again, you could also just smack them with a Tri-Rod over and over again to keep relearning it. The real Zelda in Smash has traditionally been a very passive character, which made sense for a lot of her past canon, and this is a legacy that Echoes of Wisdom somewhat carries on, given that her most prominent combat style in that game doesn't actually get her hands dirty. That said, this is also a game where she can and does fight much more directly too, and games like Tears of the Kingdom have also placed her in more active roles in recent years. I think it makes sense to incentivize jumping into the fray more here. She may hold the Triforce of Wisdom, but you know what? If you're in a fighting game, sometimes the wisest thing to do is square up. Down Tilt is Zelda's first attack that makes use of an echo she's already learned, as a Goo Spectre pops out of the ground in front of her and knocks opponents upwards. The little guy works as a good combo starter that's reasonably safe on shield and also has some solid range thanks to coming out a bit in front of Zelda. The Tri-Rod itself also has a sour spot on it that knocks opponents outwards, so landing the echo is definitely the goal here. Summoning the Spectre takes 1 Tri-power, and like all monster echoes Zelda brings to the table, it will briefly linger on the stage after attacking, where it can be destroyed with a single hit and will promptly despawn regardless, returning his Tri-power to the pool. As a final note, echoes don't block movement the same way players do. Walking past them pushes them slightly into the background so you can always breeze right by, and they always have a sparkling outline which distinguishes them from other entities on screen. For up tilt, on the other hand, Zelda holds the Tri-Rod above her head and performs the Erasure from Echoes of Wisdom, as the tip of the rod flares into a large ball of energy. This is a persistent, decently large multi-hit anti-air with reasonable kill power, and true to the source material, it also has the unique property of instantly erasing all echoes that she summoned and returning their tri-power to her. If she does erase anything with it, its animation finishes earlier and has much less end lag, turning it from a somewhat mediocre combo tool into quite a good one. Dash attack is the Priestess Spiral, where Zelda does a spinning knee slide with the tri-rod braced out in front of her. It's got low startup and excellent travel distance, making it useful both as a burst attack and for approaching while charging an echo, but as a standalone move, it doesn't offer too much in terms of combo potential or kill power. This is loosely adapted from the spin that Zelda uses to dodge out of danger in Echoes of Wisdom, and while that version can be upgraded to knock enemies back, it never actually dealt any damage in its homeland. It's not the first time a Smash translation's turned a movement option into an attack. No translation needed as we head into her Smash attacks, as forward smash sees Zelda tucking in and summoning a Dark Nut Echo, which reaches right past her to deliver a powerful overhead cleave. Its back may potentially even tank a stubby hit from behind now and then. Between the Dark Nut's coverage and power, it's a pretty solid forward smash overall, but you will pay for this strength with 2 tri-power to bring the echo out. As for how the charge mechanic works with smash attacks, which are obviously already chargeable, if Zelda doesn't have an echo learned at the moment, they do exactly what you'd expect. If she does have an echo learned, you can charge the smash attack as usual up to the point where tri flashes, at which point you switch over to using the learned echo. Moving into down smash, Zelda quickly summons a Fire Octo Echo in front of her, and right afterwards an Ice Octo behind, each of which fires off a short-ranged projectile. They can only shoot a tiny fraction as far as they do in Echoes of Wisdom, but still, you can't really ask for much better ground coverage. The Fire Octo's blast has conventional kill power along with its fire properties, whereas the Ice Octos will briefly freeze an opponent, creating a great opportunity to, say, go smack them with a Tri-Rod. Down smash will take you 2 tri-power in total to perform, 1 for each Octo. Up smash calls in yet another monster echo, this time a Ball and Chain Trooper, to perform a wide overhead swing of its signature weapon at the cost of 2 more tri-power. This completes the trifecta of smash attacks with excellent coverage Zelda has to work with, and it's another one of her strongest kill moves, but it's also on the slow side, as you'd expect from anything swinging one of those around. Taking her feet off the ground and heading into aerials, Zelda's neutral air is the Priestess stance, a quick spin with the tri-rod held out in front of her. This is another adaptation of Echoes of Wisdom's spin maneuver, of course also coming with more offensive potential than its initial appearance. It's a quick, long-range disjoint marginally in the vein of something like Marth's Double Slash, although because this one is just a single hit, it doesn't have the same kind of cancel utility. That said, it will still create combos and tech chases before it eventually starts killing, and this kind of when in doubt move, less generously referred to as brain dead sometimes, is never something you're going to be unhappy to have on your kit. It also works as a conventional way to swing the tri-rod in front of her while she's in the air, because forward air is the decidedly less conventional Gyro Squall. Zelda summons a Gyro Echo above her and grabs hold as it fires off a blast of air, thrusting her forward feet first to deliver a hearty kick. The blast of air from the Gyro is a windbox that hits behind Zelda, and true to its native portrayal, it also gives her a burst of forward momentum, although not as much momentum as Echoes of Wisdom gets away with. That momentum gives the kick some surprising reach and heft, letting it kill at reasonable percentages, and it also gives the move some additional utility in recovery or disadvantage situations, similar to something like Corrin's back air. It's got a lot going for it that most other forward airs simply can't provide, although one element not in its corner is the one tri-power needed to bring it out. It is an echo attack after all. Back air returns to more straightforward territory, as Zelda grips the top of her tri-rod and delivers a heavy thrust behind her. It comes with good range and, like most back airs in Smash, works as a kill move, even if it's nothing particularly outrageous. There's no major home series inspiration behind this one, it's just an overall very solid move that helps her play neutral and fish for kills while learning echoes at the same time. Down air is back in more concrete Echoes of Wisdom territory, and it's a fun one, as Zelda calls forth a trampoline echo and rides it to the ground. Despite what it might look like, this is not a stall and fall. She maintains normal air momentum the entire way down, and it'll break if it collides with anything, popping Zelda back up into the air. Its knockback trajectory also pops opponents up, so letting it create some nice opportunities for air combos at early percents. The trampoline is a very useful tool in Echoes of Wisdom, especially in its early hours, and as in its home series, using it in Smash will cost Zelda 1 tri-power. Up air pulls from the same well as up tilt, as Zelda once again raises the tri-rod above her head and summons a multi-hit Blaze of Light. It's more powerful than up tilt, but otherwise works largely the same, including its distinctive ability to erase all echoes when it's used. Just like its grounded counterpart, doing this improves its frame data substantially, expanding Zelda's ability to control her tri-power distribution while also providing yet another incentive to make good use of those echoes to begin with. And then we have Zelda's all-important special moves, beginning with Bind for neutral special. This is a moderately ranged hit grab, meaning a command grab that still gets blocked by shields, where Zelda launches Tri-Forward, and if it makes contact with someone, it'll latch onto them and create a magical tether between it and Zelda. Unlike with many special grabs, Zelda won't automatically throw her opponent immediately and can still move freely with them for a bit. After a short amount of time, or when the special button is pushed again, she will finally fling them forward with some kill power. Consider walking an opponent to a ledge, or even off the stage to make the most of this. And there will be rare opportunities to carry someone directly into the side blast zone without putting her in danger. The relatively slow startup of Bind will make this hard to line up, but you can't argue with that payoff. Bind can also grab echoes as well as opponents, in which case it automatically turns into Reverse Bond, an alternate state in Echoes of Wisdom where the echo is the one in control. In Smash, this means the echo she's bonded to will automatically charge forward with its own trajectory, anything from a fast burst to a leap to a slow plod, delivering a second dose of his typical attack before disappearing for good. This makes it a burst option that puts a hitbox in front of Zelda, which is very nice to have, but there is some end lag when she detethers, so it's not nearly as safe as you may expect. Use it wisely. Side special in the meantime is the Bow of Light, Zelda's only conventional projectile. It's chargeable, can be angled up and down up to 45 degrees while it's charging, and fires in a completely straight line, even bouncing right off the first surface it hits. The Bow of Light takes a back seat in Echoes of Wisdom in favor of the Bow of Might. Oh, I see what they did there. But it does have deep roots throughout the overall Legend of Zelda series, with multiple incarnations of Zelda either wielding it herself or summoning it for Link to use. As in several of those appearances, the Bow of Light in Smash will stun opponents for further follow-ups, the length of which will increase with the charge time in the same vein as some existing projectiles, although hitting grounded opponents will send them into a stagger animation more like Mewtwo's Disable. It's a very powerful projectile and travels quite fast, but the uncharged version won't leave enough time for many follow-ups unless you hit them point blank. Its range also increases with charge time though, so quick draws will be hitting a lot of closer range shots anyways. Despite not making an appearance in Echoes of Wisdom, the Bow of Light still takes one tri-power to make use of. Call it, I don't know, an echo from another timeline if it makes you feel better. I call it making her moveset feel consistent without asking players to memorize Zelda lore. Down Special is another departure from Echoes of Wisdom as Zelda performs Recall from her recent incarnation as the Sage of Time. It's a move adapted relatively faithfully from its appearance in Tears of the Kingdom, where Zelda herself is shown using recall powers through cutscenes, and Link also demonstrates his capabilities more concretely throughout the game, tapping into the ability via Raru's arm. In Smash, a bubble of rippling energy quickly expands around her, and any item, projectile, assist trophy, essentially any entity besides a playable character immediately starts reversing his trajectory. Her opponent's projectiles head right back towards them under Zelda's control, making this a unique variant of the classic reflector, and those echoes that have been lingering all over the stage get a new wind. The Goo Spectre, for example, flattens itself back against the ground ready to attack again, or, if you catch it right away, it can even be sent back in time to before it was summoned. Did you have no choice but to burn through all three tri-power and lose the echo you learned? Sometimes you'll just have to live with that, but in other situations, you can actually create a second chance for yourself. There is a brief cooldown on this move, indicated by Zelda's hands becoming coated in yellow energy for a few seconds after using it, but it'll still be available more than enough to make a high impact in a game. And then for Up Special, we have Zelda's primary recovery move, the Plat Boom launch. She summons a Plat Boom echo directly under her feet, which blasts off into the air, starting relatively slowly but rapidly accelerating. At its peak, it comes to an abrupt stop and catapults her slightly further up before plunging right back down as an active hitbox. The Plat Boom pops opponents up when it drops on them, the standard for persistent downwards attacks in Smash where spikes would be overly oppressive, but it's still a relatively risk-free opportunity to go for some extra damage when your opponent's off stage, and it will eventually kill off the top too. Zelda can't use the Plat Boom again until her feet touch solid ground, but launching off it also won't put her into freefall, opening up chances to, say, pair it with Recall to cheat out a second rising cycle. Very good for mix-ups. The Plat Boom costs one tri-power to summon, a bargain at half as much as the Echoes of Wisdom version. Now heading into Zelda's grapple game, she has a relatively straightforward grab with good speed and average range, nothing too noteworthy going on there. Her pummel is also typical in terms of speed and damage output, but it does use the Tri-Rod, so be sure to weave it in when needed. After a good pummeling, why not try out Forward Throw, where Zelda knocks her opponent back a bit with a shin kick, then blasts them with magical energy emitted from both hands. The primary inspiration for this one comes from the final showdown in Ocarina of Time, but of course, magical blasts are nothing new to Zelda in other contexts either. This is technically a kill throw, but it's one of those nebulous ones where if you're forced to turn to it, something's probably gone wrong. Above all else, it's meant to knock opponents off stage, and it launches them at a reasonably low angle, which makes it solid for setting opening up edgeguard opportunities. Back throw puts the magical powers away and sees Zelda once again laying down the law with the Tri-Rod. This is another 2-hit attack where she pirouettes behind her opponent while fluidly delivering a low sweep that pops them into the air, then follows up with an overhead swing that sends them flying. The damage and knockback on this one are not overly impressive, which is a bit of a rough break given how often back throws work as kill moves among the Smash roster. That said, it still gives Zelda good positioning, and is also the only Tri-Rod based throw that she has, so it definitely has a role to play. As for down throw, Zelda summons a Lizalfo's Echo high above her opponent, which plunges heavily to the ground trident point first, knocking them down and bouncing them off the floor. It's one of the best combo throws in the entire game, allowing Zelda to follow up for a long time and potentially even kill confirm into different areas depending on the direction her opponent holds. It will cost 1 tri-power to take advantage of, but as anyone who's used a combo throw can tell you, that's a price well worth paying. And then we have up throw, another very strong option which takes advantage of Zelda's echoes. A Deku Baba level 2 erupts out of the ground underneath her opponent's feet and swallows them whole as it rises, then whips its stalk around and flings them off into the sky. While there's no combo potential here, it is a very reliable kill throw off the top, which is generally agreed to be the best kind of kill throw to have. It will cost 2 tri-power to summon though, and also gives opponents plenty of time to adjust their stick angles, so make sure you know your kill percents well. A couple small details to cover before the grand finale. Zelda's ledge attack and get up attacks all make use of the Tri-Rod, providing just a bit more incentive to try and make them work than usual, although as with any of these, it's still not a good idea to tunnel vision on them too much. As for her spot dodge, rolls, and air dodges, in terms of performance, these are all right in the middle of the pack. And visually, there's yet more spin maneuvering involved. I honestly think the spin dodge button might be the one that I hit the most often in my Echoes of Wisdom playthrough. She's clearly taking some cues from the series' younger days on that one. And then, at long last, we get to the final smash. Echoes of Time. Zelda fires a blast of sealing magic from her hand, and if any opponents are caught in it, they're pulled into a blinding white void. The light comes down, revealing that we're in the Sacred Realm, with the opponent trapped in the center and surrounded by every other incarnation of Zelda that's ever existed throughout the series. Each of them with eyes closed, hands folded in prayer, and appearing slightly insubstantial, outlined in a yellow aura reminiscent of the Sage of Time's energy. They simultaneously open their eyes and expel enormous amounts of sealing magic at their foe, and the camera switches to a low angle as we see Echoes of Wisdom's incarnation of Zelda leap high into the air in her sword fighter form, the Sword of Might gripped in both hands as she lands on their head with a powerful overhead blow, knocking them right back out of the magic, the Sacred Realm, and with any luck, their stock. It's very reminiscent of Link's final smash from earlier in this video series, and if anything, feels more appropriate for her given Zelda's more direct connections to time. If there's anybody that could pull this universe's jumbled timeline splits together for a moment, the titular princess herself would certainly be the one. Plus, it would be awesome, which is always a major concern for a final smash. Longtime viewers may have noticed that this wasn't the only time she did something that brushed up against Link's moveset rework. I think at this point it does make some sense for them to have at least passing similarities, but she still very much plays with her own style that nobody else in Smash really matches. Even though I've never particularly liked the official Zelda design in Smash, I have to admit that it does feel kind of weird to see her so action-oriented and working alongside monsters here. It almost seems like the kind of thing you'd expect Ganondorf to be doing. All I can really say there is, tell that to Nintendo, I guess. Echoes of Wisdom is by far the most defined identity she's ever been given as far as combat is concerned, and if her creators wanted to put the stoic priestess persona on the back burner and have her jump around alongside demons, who am I to argue? It also helps that I think this version of Zelda seems like a ton of fun to play. She was actually pretty tricky to work on. Echoes of Wisdom has so many echoes to acquire and mess around with that narrowing them down to a Smash moveset was difficult, and I was tempted to try and squeeze in a lot more, but I think letting her acquire an opponent's echo is the most important thing to get right. That alone already adds a lot of complexity and decision making to the moveset, and Zelda also has her inherent echoes and abilities to manipulate them, so it seemed sensible to put a cap on just how much crazy stuff she could do, which is also why most of her normals and aerials that don't involve echoes are quite simple and straightforward. Echoes generally have pretty simple behavior in their home game as well, and on top of that, if you start trying to make things too accurate to the source material, what you end up with is a character who hangs back and summons a swarm of puppets to do her job. That works in Echoes of Wisdom, especially once you start learning how to actively manipulate those puppets' behavior more, but trying to fight against a direct translation of that playstyle in Smash sounds like a frustrating endeavor. This direction still lets her keep some of that flavor, but if you want to make the most out of those tools, you'll need to keep fighting for it. And if she works anything like this in the real next Smash game, you know what? I might just do that. Thanks for watching, everyone, and let me know what you thought of this moveset concept, along with Echoes of Wisdom for that matter if you feel like it. You can check out another Legend of Zelda rework here, my second channel MockRock Talk here, and patrons, members, and subs get cool perks like early videos and Discord access. Later, people!